All right, let's start with the big SCO summit that's brought three world leaders together, sending some jitters to the United States. The world just witnessed a glimpse of what the next global order would really look like. And it wasn't scripted in Washington this time. In Tianjin, China, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit opened up with three big leaders, Prime Minister Modi from India, Putin from Russia, and Xi Jinping, of course, the host country, China, came together on that one platform, really stealing the show. And the camaraderie between all the leaders was really quite classic. The walks, the smiles, the handshakes that just didn't end. It seemed like all the three leaders there were so into each other, conversing, in a way showing solidarity. Clearly, this is a nudge after Trump tariffs, knowing very well that one can't rely on the West or should not rely on the West. You had India, China and Russia coming together on that platform in a way suggesting enough is enough, we've got to start a new world order. And that's what this image really looked like, and a message that clearly was sent out. It was an unspoken rebuttal to Donald Trump's tariff war. Trump may have been doubling down tariffs on India, China and sidelining Russia, but from the looks of this, the meeting that we saw at SCO, the way the leaders were speaking with one another, the bonhomie, clearly showed that none of them are willing to bend to submission. In China, the absence of America, in fact, was a headline. Xi Jinping pitched a new SCO bank. Why we would say this could be a new world order is because you have India, Russia, China coming together on one stage, asking for a new SCO bank, an alternative payment system beyond the dollar, billions in aid and loans to bring together so that each of the nations can be supported when there's tough times. Putin even called for a Eurasian security model free of Western dominance. Now, India has been quite clear that India will prioritize India first, Indian citizens first, and they will continue buying Russian oil despite US pressure against it. India has shown clearly where its priorities lie. And that itself is enough defiance here to show very clearly to Trump that India has autonomy and it exercises it. For Modi, it was also about thawing ties with Beijing, agreeing that India and China are partners in growth and not rivals in conflict. So in a way, we saw India deciding that its neighbors, China and Russia, are important at a time like this when United States literally stabbed India at the back. One can say that very comfortably. India now looking at avenues towards its neighboring nations. The most sensible thing to do, and that's what we saw writ large as part of the SCO summit. The symbolism was indeed unmistakable. Global governance at a new crossroad. Just as the SCO meet ended, Donald Trump went on a rant. If I could actually tell you what exactly Donald Trump has said in a latest statement just about an hour ago, Donald Trump has put out this message on his Truth Social platform where he says, blaming India entirely for the 50% tariff, saying it's a one-sided disaster. He says India imposed very high tariffs on US goods, accusing India of buying oil and defense gear from Russia alone and nobody else, and not America, at least not defense gear from America. Trump there whining, saying India imposed such heavy tariffs on us and finally decided to go back on the tariffs on US goods. That's just very little, or rather too little, too late. Basically, while SCO meet was happening and all the three big leaders were together, sharing stage, making global headlines, here was Trump literally ranting out on his Truth Social platform, saying that it was India's fault, it was India's fault. Well, the President Donald Trump now is only left grumbling, while it seems like Modi, Putin and Xi have set the stage and the ball rolling for a new world order. Joining me for a little more on this, Dr. Sanjay K. Pandey, Professor, Center for Russian Studies, JNU. We also have Dr. B.R. Deepak, Sinologist and Professor of Chinese Studies, JNU. Thanks very much, both of you, for joining us. In fact, let me start with Dr. Sanjay K. Pandey. Hi. We also have Mithali Nikore, Founder and Chief Economist, Nikore Associates. Thank you. Sir, let me begin with your expertise, Mr. Sanjay K. Pandey. We're looking at Modi, Xi and Putin on that one stage walking shoulder to shoulder, and the visuals were unmistakable. It almost looked like the three leaders were waiting to come on one platform together, and that wish came true, with Xi organizing this SCO summit right in time. The three leaders shaking hands, Modi and Putin going on a car ride together to the SCO meet, having an informal, formal, whatnot. Conversations to the max the two leaders had, Putin and Modi, and Xi and Modi. The kind of red carpet that was laid out for Prime Minister Modi in China itself shows that China are really looking towards India to build relations yet again. And now we hear that there's a new SCO bank that they want to set up. They want to come up with an alternative currency, just like what BRICS is also planning. We're looking at SCO also pushing for an alternative banking system that can counter America and the dollar. So we're looking at a new world order already taking shape.
Well, thank you very much for having me here. You are very right, and pictures say it all. You don't need any words to describe what really happened. The video of Prime Minister Modi holding hands of President Putin and literally leading him to the hall where President Xi meets them, and all the three in a very light mood and joking like very old friends. So that says it all. And then, as you very rightly said, Prime Minister Modi joining President Putin in his car for a 45-minute ride, during which they talk. And after reaching again, they have one-to-one for about another 45 minutes before the delegations join. And one more thing, in fact, President Putin waited for 10 minutes for Prime Minister Modi to come and join him in the car. So that says it all. The type of these images convey, the message that they convey is there for everyone in the world to see. And Trump's reaction again says it all, where he talks about India-US trade as a disaster.
Yeah.
Before that, a few weeks back, he called India and Russian economy as dead economy. So Trump's frustration is there for the world to see, and SCO meet couldn't have come at a more opportune time when all these three countries, incidentally, all of them, three major non-Western countries, they all needed a time to show to the world and to show to Trump that they have alternatives, they have their own worldview, they have their own strategy, depending on their national interest. And so therefore, this was the right time, and they utilized this time to the hilt to convey the message.
Okay, Dr. B.R. Deepak, your take on New World Order. If you could give us a little reference and context of from the past on India, China, Russia, always been friends. The economies have grown substantially, especially India and China. Russia has been doing well up until the war began. So the three countries should ideally be natural friends because we're all neighbors. Coming together on one platform, what does it mean? Could we really be a counterweight to the West, America especially? How do you think this will shape up in a nutshell?
Yeah, Navella, three quick points. One, of course, the optics have been great, as Professor Pandey has said it. And it is primarily because these optics, so that has perturbed Trump, and I would say, the paranoia is visible in his statement as well as his team. And second, of course, I think is the coming together is also sort of like signaling to the West as well as America, so that if you don't fall in place, then perhaps we would be coming together, and it won't be good for America and its allies, especially the European Union. And third, as far as the world order is concerned, I think it has already been changing. We have been talking about the power shift taking place from Atlantic to the Pacific, and Trump himself, he was the architect of Indo-Pacific, but now himself is not coming to the core, so that is American problem, not the problem of other partners. Give you one example as far as the balance, how it is shifting. You see, in 1947, when America led the New World Order, European Union's GDP, it was 4 times that of China, and the United Kingdom's GDP was 4 times that of India. And today, comes to 2025, European Union's GDP is slightly less than that of China. It is at par. And India has superseded United Kingdom's GDP. So it shows itself that new winds are blowing, and it is also because of this. Even though China may,
can we do it without America? Can we really do it without America?
No, I'm coming to that. Even if China is ratcheting that, we still adhere to the United Nations Charter. But the creation of AIIB, a new development bank, and now the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Bank, it itself is an indicator that the new institution of global governance, so they are in making. And if America doesn't support or come along, so then so they would be left alone. Not only the United States, but also the European Union. Those who are resisting, this kind of change in world geopolitics as well as geoeconomics. But having said that, I think at this point in time, it would be extremely difficult to play down the role of United States. It still remains the largest economy in the world. It's the largest military power in the world. And for India also, I think our strategic ties with United States, they are extremely important. It is the market for Indian exports. We have trade surplus there. I don't think we have the kind of markets we have in United States, the parallel in China or Russia, even though our ties are warming up. But then we remains essentially a market, for Chinese goods. That could be, to some extent, I think the gap could be bridged if investment takes place in India, Chinese investment, Russian investment, and America, by the way, is the largest investor in India. The FDI, mostly it comes from that country. And from China, we are having less than maybe around 4 to 5 billion US dollar of investment. But of course, much of it was disturbed by the Galvan and so on and so forth.
Let me also bring in Mithali Nikore, who's wanting to make a point there. Mithali, as we see India, Russia, China coming together, there's already a lot of business we do in terms of defense, oil, defense purchases, and oil extensively from Russia. We get it at a good price. They've been our good neighbors, good friend with India for decades. So India has maintained that irrespective of US pressure. So work on that front is, or rather trade with Russia has been good, but trade with China hasn't been so substantial. We've been in a deficit rather than a surplus, more importing from China, less exporting. So when someone looks at an image that we see on our screens here today, Russia, India, China coming together on one platform, could this be new world order? Give us a sense of where we're looking at, how we're looking at, what kind of business flow are we looking at, what kind of cooperation we're looking at within countries, within these South Asian countries.
No, absolutely, Nabila. Thanks for bringing me into the conversation. I think it's very evident that we're seeing the formation, the inception of a new world order. But of course, a lot will depend on the trust building that starts at this SCO summit and how that trust building goes forward in the next 20 years or 25 years. It took India and the US almost 25 years to build the relationship that they had, and it took only 25 minutes, or rather 25 tweets and posts by President Trump on Truth Social to, completely, that relationship to go completely kaput. So, in the next 20 to 25 years, can India work with China? Can India work with other partners of the SCO to really build this new world order? It's a long-term exercise. The only relationship which really has stood the test of time is the India-Russia relationship, because Russia has always been, as China has said that they are an ironclad friend of Pakistan, in the same way, Russia has said that they are an ironclad friend of India. So these groupings coming together today should definitely be taken as a sign of positivity, should be taken as a sign of the global South countries standing up for themselves and saying, we are not going to take, another round of colonization, another round of economic, bullying by the West. But at the same time, these countries also have a lot to work out between themselves.
From what we see, Trump again has put out that message, in the latest message, if you can show what Trump has said, saying it's India's doing, India squarely responsible for these tariffs. It's a one-sided disaster, basically saying this disaster happened because India has imposed high tariffs on United States goods, and now India cutting back on it is too little too late. How accurate is this claim?
No, absolutely. I mean, this claim it makes absolutely no sense in any country or any world where we speak with data and evidence, right? Because of course, all of the data and evidence which the government of India has presented multiple times in front of multiple audiences show that the Russian oil purchases were in fact made post a discussion with the US, where India was encouraged to purchase Russian oil in global markets in a way to keep oil prices more stable. So it has already been established, and evidence and data has been presented to that effect. Secondly, when we look at the Indo-US trade relationship, it stands at nearly $85 billion of goods which are being traded between the two countries, and even more if we add the imports that are coming from the US. So therefore, it cannot be said that this is not a very important trading relationship. And plus, if we start looking at services, if we start looking at the number of workers from India that are going to the US, I mean, the entire Silicon Valley is powered by Indian brains. So, to say that, oh, India is not, is a dead economy or a country that's not so relevant to the functioning of the US in that sense is not a statement that's born with data and evidence at all.
No, my only question here is a new world order. Is it possible? The SCO leaders, Putin and Xi, particularly batting for an SCO bank, a development bank and a payment system way beyond US dollar, basically to kill the influence of US dollar. They want to start an SCO bank itself. How realistic is this to de-dollarize trade? Do you think it's really possible?
So I don't think that it is widely possible to de-dollarize trade. But at the same time, the fact that President Trump has felt the need to constantly talk about how BRICS countries are trying to de-dollarize trade automatically shows that he's creating, a solution to a problem that never existed in the first place. Because the trade that was taking place, which was not in the dollar, was only limited to, say, the oil trade between Russia and India, or was only limited to some of the trade that was happening between China and Russia on a bilateral basis. But there was no multilateral trade which involved multiple countries that was actually happening in other currencies. And of course, it's going to take a lot of institution building, trust building for something like an SCO bank to become the reality. I mean, even for the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, AIIB, for them to open an office in India, it took almost 5 to 7 years and a lot of institution building. So these moves are medium term moves, but at the same time, for today, what becomes evident is that these countries are willing to put their time, effort, and investments together to make those institutions a reality. And that's something that, in a way, has been motivated by the external environment that the West is creating.
Okay. Well, it's very interesting to see that Trump, we thought that we were expecting him to say something, and he finally did. He put out this message saying, it's India's doing, almost frustrated. In fact, we are going to extensively speak about Peter Navarro's take on Brahmins profiteering from purchasing oil from Russia. That comment itself is absolutely distasteful. I will be going into that talk, but a quick word. Sir Sanjay, your take on the three leaders and a new global order, a new world order. I only see that Donald Trump was not in the mix this time, and he must be feeling so sour. And if EU can come together, that's what I hear many of the analysts say, that if EU can come together, why can't Southeast Asian countries come together and be a solid unit? How far long do you think this could become a reality? How long?
Well, a new world order definitely and surely will come about. But what would be the contours and parameters of this new world order is still too early to say. As Professor Deepak very rightly said, United States is still indispensable. Don't forget that the size of its GDP economy is $30 trillion. Chinese are around 18, 19. India is still only $4 trillion, and the Russians are slightly over $2 trillion. So even these three countries taken together fall short of US. And then de-dollarization might seem very attractive, but as Mitali again pointed out very rightly, we have discovered in our trade with Russia, the Chinese have discovered in their trade with Russia that there is still no clear alternative to the dollar, howsoever we may try. I'm just trying to point out that US remains an important partner.
Yeah.
The Chinese as a trading partner for the Russians, because they have a big role in what happens in the Ukraine war, and for us because we enjoy a clear trade surplus with US, while with China we have a nearly $100 billion minus.
Okay.
Of course, despite this $100 billion or $99 billion surplus going against us, negative trade balance, we still do not use the type of words that Trump uses for India.
Yeah,
That is
absolutely.
the
India has been
difference.
absolutely civil, diplomatic, the way a diplomatic country should behave. That's how India has behaved. A final word from you, Mr. Deepak, on India being part of both blocks, the Western trade groups as well as the SCO. In a way, we're part of Quad, we're part of BRICS, we're part of SCO. We have the autonomy, and therefore we are everywhere. But does this benefit us?
Yeah, obviously, I think that is the best part of the strategic autonomy we have been maintaining, ever since of independence. Of course, there is no absolute strategic autonomy. I would also reiterate that, and it is absolutely national interest, I would say. So that matters for any country, whether it is United States or China or Russia. And the realignment or recalibration which we see happening at this point in time, it exactly testifies that. And as far as world order is concerned, I was talking in the terms of like future, not now. So it is taking shape. The narrative has started. So that's what I've and these upticks and these signals from SCO or BRICS or any other form. So that indicates that, for example, by 2050, if you see the European GDP and the Chinese GDP would be 4 times more than the European GDP. So it indicates that naturally, the order by that time it will be very, very different. Of course, it is taking shape, but then the narrative, it has already started in, and perhaps the Chinese, they are starting to dominate, the world stage at that point in time. They have already started to offer a new narrative, so-called building community
and
of
I
shared
think that's
future.
established with this meet. SCO, that was little known, seems to have really grabbed global headlines. So now SCO as a meet, as a summit itself, has gained a lot of significance with Prime Minister Modi's presence there, and Putin, of course. So the three leaders, Modi, Putin and Xi, India, China, Russia, on that one platform has certainly sent jitters, and we've understood that with the headlines we've seen all over the globe. Thanks very much, the two of you. I'm very short on time, but appreciate you joining us. We will slip into a short break. Be right back.